It's the most surreal thing. Like,
is this a true story?
It's a true story. Like, you won't even believe it.
He's going to tell this story. It's going to be a load of shit.
No. It's a true story. Imagine this. So, how familiar are you with Pollock? So Pollock roundabout, right?
Beside Pollock Centre?
Yep.
Aye.
And then you got Barhead Road.
100%. Aye.
Right, so you know there?
Yep.
So down...
Under the Hurlet?
Yeah, so before you get to Hurlet, just as you come by, you drive along, there's football parks down there.
Yes.
It's called the Meadow, right? So always get waterlogged, so it was always a nightmare during the winter and everything else, but we used to always go there in the summer and play football. Mm-hmm. So as you know, this side of Pollock, where I grew up, was the young team. Mm-hmm. Then across there, you've got the Cross or the Crew, Priestley. Right? Or Priestley's the other way, but you've got Cross, the Crew, or you've got, who else did you have as well? Oh, fuck knows, but anyway, it was them. So we used to go down to the Meadow, and this is where there was fights. And you know how when you were younger, when it's fights, like one gang runs, the other ones run away, then they run back, and then you run away, and it's a bit back and forth.
If you're a chicken, yeah.
If you're a chicken, right? So what happens is, because like when we were transitioning from, used to be the young team, as in like young boys who are in their 12, 13, 14,
aye.
and then when you're 15 and 16, you're then called the big team, right? So
the older ones.
Aye, right. So then you've got your top man and all this stuff. The scheme, like, it's just mental. So because we are starting to get older, right? So we would come down. So all the younger ones would be running back and forth like that, right? And then we all come down. Everyone's getting hammered, bucket, empty, all that kind of stuff, right? And then when you get there, down at the Meadow, this is the most surreal thing ever. So then we go up, and you're literally fighting on the Barhead Road, right? You're fighting on there, like throwing all sorts of stuff, like people, and then next minute people start coming out with machetes and everything else. It's just nuts. Like, it was so surreal, but nothing's really happening here. But people are threatening, people throwing things, people with golf clubs, people chasing things. It's
nuts. Nobody's actually getting leathered at this point.
But this time here, one of my mates, right, at the time, had a ball bearing gun, right?
Yes.
And a bus was going by, a double-decker bus, and he starts shooting his ball bearing guns, and it just poof, smashed a couple of the bus windows. Within 10 minutes, I shit you not, and I don't know how this could possibly happen. I'm talking about fucking all sorts of shit. Like, I'm talking about fucking SWAT cars. That's what it was like, man. Like big fucking arms.
Alsatians there that
mate, no, it was fucking like police on horses and everything. Mate, this was the most surreal moment of my fucking life.
What?
Like cutting about the parks, like horses just running down. People trying to run away from police horses, running around just fucking grabbing people. So, like, it just was carnage. This lasted for about an hour. Police everywhere. So I ended up being in Helen Street because you all get away from it all.
At this point?
14, 15.
Oh my God.
So you end up just disappearing with all your mates. But then the police come in like riot vans and everything else, and they just jump out and they just grab you. But you never ran away because we thought, oh, we'll just be cool because we won't get caught because we're just hanging about down here. But it just wrapped everybody up in the back of the fucking van, took you there, held you in until your fucking parents came. So it was my mum, my uncle came down to get me. It was the most surreal thing because in our cell, and like you're in your individual cell, you could hear your mates and all that stuff, and you're sitting shouting things to each other and all that kind of stuff. The most surreal experience ever. I could only think about it, like, because Mad Liz, my mum, I was like, she's going to batter my fucking head in.
Mate, that's
imagine cutting about Pollock with fucking police and fucking horses marching about, riot vans everywhere, helicopters out, everything, mate. It was like the most surreal thing ever.
It's like Grand Theft Auto.
Oh,
you
mental,
5 stars on
mental. It was just mental. Anyway, so let's talk about something. Talk some sense.
That's good content.
So here's what's crazy about everything that we've kind of done together, because it kind of started through coming to Grant Cardone. So we did a 10xUK tour, and it's quite funny because I remember you coming up to us. Like you walked up, and
I wish you didn't.
No, honestly, like my first reaction, because you had longer hair, you had a ponytail.
I had long hair, because I still had the tattoo on my head, so it was undercut, but I was growing my hair out again to donate it to charity, so my hair was still long at the time.
And what age were you? That was about almost
20. Maybe just turned 22.
Yeah.
And I just turned 26 there, so just over 4 years ago, innit, I think.
Yeah, because you were there with a couple of people, and I'd spoke to, because we started off in London, so we had a big event there.
Was that the first one?
The first one was London.
I thought Glasgow. I thought it went Glasgow, London.
Yeah, no, we did London first. So a couple of thousand people there. You get to meet and talk to loads of different people, which is cool. We then went over to Wales, where we brought Lord Sugar as well, and and that was a great event, speaking to loads of people, and then obviously come to Glasgow, which is good, wanting to bring Cardone to your hometown, which was kind of surreal.
No police officers that thing.
Totally surreal. But see, we were at the event, the funniest thing about it all was that I was talking to different people, and when you came up to us, like at the end, like towards the end or whenever it was, like the first thing that kind of struck me is like how confident you were. You know, even though I'm looking at you going, you look different.
I had no reason to be confident, by the way,
the ponytail and everything else. But it was kind of nice to see that, because so many people who are younger, and especially those who want to get involved in personal development and business and everything else, I know myself, like I wasn't a confident person. Like I found it hard to communicate with people. So for me, it was a disconnect, because many people that I've been speaking to at different events, people were very shy,
nervous,
and the reason why you stood out from everybody, not only because of the ponytail, the tattoo, the back of your head, and everything, but it was just your confidence. It was your confidence.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, is that something that's always been for you, like at a young age?
Do you know what? I can't ever remember not being able to deal with nerves well, because when you've fought and stuff like that, like the stakes are so much higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you go out and you're in front of a crowd of people and you're locked inside a cage and you're fighting somebody else and your family are watching and all that, there's a lot of stakes there. If you get battered, it's embarrassing. There's physical risk. Do you get what I mean? So for me, being at that, I was like, what's the worst thing that happens here? I go up and this guy thinks this boy's an absolute rocket, which it was a common response that I was used to, because I was like, I knew I was a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? But I think it started at a young age. Probably my parents, they drove me to do every club in school, like, and I think it was good because it kept me occupied and it didn't cost anything as well. Do you get what I mean? So you went to all the different sports clubs and you just didn't need to pay anything. But I would go to the drama club. I would do everything, Scottish dancing, you name it. And I think, honestly, people laugh at me when I say this, I think my big break was in primary 1. I was like 5. And I got cast as Joseph in the Nativity. You know the P1 Nativity that you get, right? And I got cast as Joseph, and the girl who was Mary in it, Surah Latif, she's now like in Bollywood and all that, right? So it must have been some nativity that year, to be honest. And that then I kind of got this wee sense of, I kind of like being on the stage in front of people. Then over years it was just, I guess, exposing myself to audiences like more and speaking on social media, because what loads of people don't realise is even if you only have 500-600 followers online, you pick up your phone, you're speaking to 500 or 600 people. Now everyone does that with ease, you just pick up your phone and you talk, but if you put 500-600 people in a room and then you speak to them, everybody starts getting scared. But for me, I was like, there's too much relying on moments like that, right? Imagine the cost for me if I hadn't went and spoke to you that day. What would my life look like now?
Yeah.
Would I still be doing alright? Probably. I'd probably have got I'd probably be getting my A45 now, if that makes sense, which is still a good car to have at 26. But the stakes are too high to not take those chances. Even if you're someone and someone maybe watching something like this, even if you go up and you're like, hi, my name's, do it. You need to do it, because if you don't, like, what is the cost of not taking that opportunity? If I hadn't went and spoke to you that day and hadn't stood up and asked Grant a question, then he absolutely roasted me in front of everybody and told me I was completely wrong, which was good, right? But do you know how many people like still say to me now, we've never met, but I remember you asking a question to 10x before anyone knew who I was. Like, I remember you asking that. So the stakes are too high. I was like, you know what, I just need to take this opportunity to go and speak. So I think it's years of development, isn't it? I don't think anyone's born confident. I think it's an environmental thing. I think I was encouraged to be that way by my parents. Yeah,
for sure. So we're very similar, but that was what's different for me, because I was the shy person.
Yeah.
I've
seen the videos. I've seen the videos.
even in my early to probably mid-20s, like it took me a long time to come out of my shell, because I had the opposite. I was never encouraged to go and do anything, you know. And the best I ever got, which is a laugh when it came to whatever pantomime play that we were doing, is that I was cast as a bodyguard.
A bodyguard?
So, because
all I would, you were a tree. No, I don't know why. No, my head, you were painted as a tree.
But here's the thing. All I had to do is walk in and take somebody by the shoulder, walk away. I had no lines, and I was stressing out and panicking and had so much pressure, which is crazy, because nowadays, being a public speaker, being on stage, it's far from my actual reality, from failing my solo talk, being ridiculed by so many people. So for me, it was so hard. Like, I found it difficult to communicate. I would be the one that would not ask a question. Like, if I was your mate at the Cardone event and you were asked a question, I would be sitting there like like
hiding
for the spotlight. So it's just so surreal.
Have you ever seen the video, right, of the kids in the primary school doing the like William Wallace thing? And the boys, this like the acting, he goes, "I'm William Wallace," and it goes through all the different characters. Then there's a boy at the end who has no face paint on, isn't wearing the costume, and he goes like this at the camera. I'm Brian. Like, he didn't know what they were doing. That's what I imagine you were like. Like, that is what I imagine you were like in school, mate, honestly.
Yeah.
The only time I ever got like really scared was actually in higher drama. So I'm like 16 at that point. I'm older, you know, and I probably had took my lumps and bumps of the wee bits of embarrassment. For example, in primary school P5, I dressed as Kim from Kim and Aggie. Remember Kim and Aggie, the cleaning TV show? Yeah. I dressed up as Kim and had to wear high heels and all that. Like, it's just part of it. So I was like, whatever, I was comfortable. But for some reason, like, when they pulled the curtain back when I was doing my higher drama, the guy that was like assessing it was sitting this really funny way. I mean, like, I imagine he sat down and went like this. Do you know what I mean? That's how I imagine he sat there, right? And his kind of went open and I looked at him and I think I was John Proctor in The Crucible, right? And I'm like facing death and persecution in this play, and I've looked at this guy and I've been like like, just couldn't look at him, mate. And I still got a B, to be honest, which was alright, but I remember looking at him being like, nah, I can't even, like, I couldn't really speak. That's the only time and it wasn't out of nerves, it was out of comedy, to be honest.
I wish I kind of stuck into drama and all that stuff, but I just, honestly, confidence was just something that was difficult for me. But as you say, as you start to change your environment,
of course,
it makes a big difference. And what I realised is that I never had that many supportive people around us, so it's very difficult if you don't have others. So you were encouraged because your mum and dad, you're encouraged by, you know, just getting put into different plays, and it's amazing how just getting casted as Joseph can do so much for your confidence, you know?
Mate, do you know what I think is so funny, right? See, anything you do well as a first timer, regardless of what it is, the encouragement makes you want to keep doing it, even if it's something you don't find interesting. If you'd asked me as a child, would you be interested in being Joseph in the town, I went no, because when I done it, you come off and everyone goes, that's amazing. That's your first like little ego boost or something. Do you get what I mean? So you want to go and do more. It's the same as if you pick up a golf club and the first time you swing a golf club, you hit a pretty clean shot. Now you're probably just about to hit 100 absolute duffers after that. But if you hit that one good shot, and people who you look up to, like a dad, a mum, your grandpa, your uncle, whoever it is, right? If they say to you, that was amazing, you'll be like, I want more, because that's you. Everyone's addicted to praise in certain ways. Does that make sense? Like when you're a wee kid, like you always do what you're encouraged to do. Like you've spoken about with the girls and stuff, you encourage them more to eat like fruits. And when they eat fruits, you really praise them. But when they eat stuff that's not as healthy, you don't praise them, even though you naturally want the unhealthy stuff first. Because we're all driven on praise, and I think that's one of those things I clicked into was, I get this feeling of like confidence. I feel good with people praising me, I guess. And
it's crazy because, again, talking about upbringings and everything else, I never had that praise. So for me, I was trying to figure myself out and go, well, where do I fit in this world here? What am I good at? What should I do? And everybody kept on, like, it was never, you never ever got any positive affirmations or you did well at that. It was always you could do better, you know, it wasn't good enough. And it's crazy. And it's not like those that were saying that, because it was never from my mum, because she kind of never said much and she was supportive where she could be. I'm talking about my uncles that were like my father figure then, or mates and everything else. Because you think about it, if you don't have a father figure when you're younger, you automatically start to take on some other person that becomes your father. So for me, it was my uncle, who was great, and I think he's amazing, but unfortunately it was because I don't think he got praise either. So because he never got praise from his father, my grandpa, or those around him, he thought the only way to support someone is you could do better. It was okay, you know, like don't do that, and it's the absolute opposite. So when that starts to happen, you start second guessing yourself, and then it starts to help you, you know, or it doesn't help you in life, it starts to make you contract. So for me, when I started to get more confident about things was when I got out my social circles. When I went to personal development events,
100%.
Because I'm like, oh my God, these people are so different. People are telling me that I can be successful, that I'm doing great, that's amazing. You're attending an event like this and you're only that age, you're going to be amazing. So then you start getting that positive kind of, you know, interaction from others, and you want more of that. And then when you start doing these things and you get that praise, it you're right, it pushes you to do more.
And that's a great example of how I got it at 5 years old, right? Because even though we stayed in an area that was an absolute shithole, the one benefit that I'll always say I have, and that I had over everyone else, was I was one of a handful between, I would say that complex was maybe 200 flats, right? I was one of maybe 5 or less 2-parent households. Everyone was single family upbringing, which is like what you had, a single parent, right? That was my one big advantage. So it doesn't matter whether you get that at 5 years old, whether you get it in your teens or your 20s or whenever. Like when you get that, it's such an addictive feeling. Do you know what I mean? And I think for some people, especially young athletes and whatnot, that can then send them on the wrong path. You can actually go backwards because there's just surrounded by yes men. You're amazing. You're great at this. And by the way, I'm a believer in tough lessons at certain points. Like it's not always, you don't always need to lead with a positive, especially when you'll know yourself. If you're training to fight or if you're doing a sport or whatever it is, something would be like, look, that was great, but I want you to change this slightly. Other days you need to be told, shut up, do this 1,000 times and do not speak to me until you've done it 1,000 times. There's situations where both work depending on the result that you want, I think, but if you're subject to either too much, it can make you either have a silly gold car and think you're amazing, or it can have a different effect, I guess.
So another thing that kind of helped me, and I know from your background as well, so my mum, she's in karate, 4th Dan, but the funny thing is that she put me into karate at a young age because she wanted me to be able to look after myself, right? Which is important. And I feel for martial arts, it's just such a great thing to get involved in, especially at a young age. So because my mum used to always keep on coming to the classes and take me to the class, is that she was talking to the sensei, the instructor, and he was like, look, why don't you do it as well? So my mum got involved, and I quit at brown and white. I actually went for my black belt because karate's a bit different because you need to do the kata, you do the tests. And
bear in mind, I done taekwondo for years, so I'm familiar with it.
So I failed my black belt, but when I failed it, because I'm sure I was 16 going on 17, I decided, I don't want anymore, I'm going to focus on football, which was a bad move, because if you're brown and white, why would you have not continued to it? I know, but my mum, she just continued and everything else, and she opened up her own karate instructors, at school and everything else, and helped a load of kids and something to go there and everything else. But the point I'm making here is that there is what kind of gave me confidence was when I wasn't getting it from anywhere else, because there's something about, and even to this day, doing jiu-jitsu, 4-stripe white belt, I'll have you know.
Scottish champ. Something we can agree on.
But it's good when you've got some sort of martial arts, because you got involved in martial arts I'd love to know about in terms of the age and everything else. 4. But for me, it was 4 young, so I must have been about, I think I was about 8 or something like that. But see, by doing all of that there's kind of like a confidence that comes knowing that you can look after yourself, that if you get into a fight, it's cool. Obviously don't want to go out there and get yourself into a fight.
Of course not.
But it's just knowing that if shit kicks off, you can protect yourself, you can look after yourself. There's a confidence that comes with that allows you to interact with other people. So even though I found it socially awkward to communicate, I was always comfortable being around people because I thought, look, I can hold myself, I can protect myself.
100%.
And I think that then translates into nowadays, into business. It gives you such a discipline, a focus, a confidence. So from your point of view, getting involved in, martial arts at a young age and actually competing and going in a ring and fighting and stuff like that at a young age. Tell me a bit more about that in terms of what that did for you too.
I think what you're saying with the whole being able to protect yourself is so important, and I love fighting and I hate fighting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if I can avoid a fight, I will. Like, there's been times, just because you can fight doesn't mean you need to, right? And the way I always think about it, it's always good to know that you can, if it's needed, but also have the clarity of mind to remove yourself from a situation where it's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about, like you say, being a mad bulldozer that can just run about knocking people out, right? It's not what you want to do. And I remember, and I don't know, you're a parent, right, with kids growing up in this new world. I say new world as if I'm older, like as if I'm like 50, but I'm sure you get what I mean. I'm sure the people watching this would get what I meant. But when I was doing Taekwondo from a young age with Patrick McLaughlin, Mr. McLaughlin, that was our instructor, right? What an amazing guy. Still speak to him to this day. And I would never have done MMA. I would never have fought MMA if it wasn't for starting there, right? And if I or any other child misbehaved in that class, you were told to sit out, right? And one of the things that was very important that taught me discipline very fast, because I was like a Duracell bunny. My dad was like, you would wake up at 5:30 in the morning and not stop until midnight. Like, you could not be stopped. I needed to find things to try and tire you out. Now, if I was misbehaving, now I wasn't a bad kid, but you're being like a wee bit cheeky, you're distracting the class, like, and that's something I think I'm still bad for to this day, distracting people. And Mr. McLaughlin would say to you, like, look, you need to sit out, right? And you would sit out. Now, my dad wouldn't come in. I think parents nowadays, you wouldn't be like this with parents nowadays, would be like, why have you excluded my son or something?
Yeah.
My dad would come in and be like, he would see me sitting out and he would go straight to the instructor. What did he do?
Yeah.
Oh, he was doing this and this. And then my dad would be like, why are you embarrassing me in front of your instructor? I'm paying money here. Like, and you're in a low income area. Like, if you're getting a couple of Taekwondo lessons a week, and my dad would even drive me to Paisley to get extra lessons, because Mr. McLaughlin had classes in Pollokshields and in Paisley. So I got disciplined not only from the instructor, but from my dad as well. Never enough. It wasn't like my dad was pure uppercutting me or whatever. My dad would be like, why are you embarrassing me? You're making an arse of me by doing that. So you had to learn to get in line very quickly. But I still loved the training. The training was so good. And I competed in Taekwondo from, I think I was 7 the first time I competed in Taekwondo. And see that feeling, the nerves of looking at someone else going, oh my goodness, this person's about to start trying to hit me and I need to hit them. It's crazy. And like you said, transitioning into business, or even just transitioning into adult life in general, even if you're transitioning into the world of work, it is, to me, only the responsible thing to do a martial art, to learn to fight. And that's the way I see it. And it gives you, in situations where other people are, I believe so, because you can't be two people at once, right? I think that I can deal with certain stresses that are nothing to do with a physical endeavour like fighting better, because I can deal with the pressure of fighting. Like, when you're in the office or you're working on a big deal or you've got something that's worth £1 million there in front of you, that's a big number. And like, I think through being around you and growing my own business, I'm so used to talking in those numbers now. But when you first start seeing that stuff, you're like, oh my goodness, like that's a real big number. But you still have the opportunity in those situations to think about other things. When you're locked in a cage and someone is trying to melt your face off, you're not thinking, oh, I wonder if I left the candles on, or I wonder if I replied to that email. You have no option but to think about the task at hand. So even for someone like me who has been easily distracted, who can distract other people, it allows me to disconnect from stuff and be solely focused on certain tasks, whilst also knowing if anyone came in the office, like, bah, get down you, man.
I love it as well, because it not only does it give you that discipline, but if you think about it, take jiu-jitsu as an example. The way I like to explain jiu-jitsu, it's like a 10,000 piece jigsaw, and when you start, you get a piece here, a piece there, a piece over here, and you're like, how does this even connect? I can't see the picture of the board in order to start piecing this jigsaw together. But the more you do it and as years go by, you start going, oh, I've got this little parts connected together, but there's a bigger picture to it. And then when you translate that into business, because so many people want overnight success, they don't want to go through challenges. Like, there could be times where, for example, this is so funny because when we had that competition that we just did there, of course I won gold, which was amazing. My first competition was a white belt, and then I got bronze on nogi. And then I'm watching my videos back and I'm like, shit. And what was so blatantly obvious, and it wasn't until later on, and I was chatting to Kieran, who does my PT with as well, and he's like, Paul, you're great at passing the guard, your stand-up game's good as well, you're grappling, but when you find yourself having to pull guard or you're on bottom, you're being too defensive, not going into offence. And I'm like, fuck, shit. So then starting to work on my ground game. But the point is, it's not like I'm going to start working my ground game and be great at it. So I'm going in the gym again.
It's time.
Literally going in the gym, pulling guard, going on my back, which is not my comfort zone. And now I'm getting like blitzed a little bit and I'm not getting hit. And I'm like, my God, it sets you back a little bit.
Of course. So
the thing is, and the point when you look into business, there's going to be times where you've got good days, there'll be times you've got bad days, you feel like you're going back, other times you feel like you're excelling, you're trying something new and it's not clicking yet. And this is what I can relate jiu-jitsu with as well, because it's not that, it could be any martial arts, it's business, it's life.
Of course.
When you're starting to learn a new skill set, it seems foreign, it seems difficult, it seems challenging. Some days it's going well, other days not so. And I think that when you incorporate that into business and life, something like a martial arts, and you realise that you're always forever going to be learning, you're always forever going to be growing, 100%. You're never going to have it all figured out. There's different levels to it. And then that there is which builds confidence, which builds character, which gives you resilience, you know. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's like everyone's wanting to try and skip a few steps. I get that. It's just the society we live in, you know, especially when we play computer games, there's a cheat code, right? It's just like the shortcut. But when it comes to business and life, to be the person you need to be, to lead yourself, your family, you know, your lead communities and stuff, like you've got to evolve and grow. It's like, it's crazy. Like back in the day, I'm talking about years ago, it would go to the village elder to try and seek the wisdom and understand
You're
life.
That age now, actually. That's why
I'm the elder, too many grey hairs, you know. But it's just amazing how, like, when you think about it, going through that whole journey of all sorts of challenges, if you embrace them rather than having this mentality of, oh, I can't do it, so forget it, I quit. And that's kind of what happened to me with my brown and white belt, going for my black belt in karate. I failed and I thought, oh, quit. I didn't get it. I quit. Wrong attitude, shitty attitude. And there's been many times in life that I've done that, just quit. And it wasn't until later on I realised, no, you need to go through that hardship. You need to learn and go, well, if it never worked out, how can I improve as a person to make sure that I do get through that next time?
I think one of the things that people don't understand is, like, pain takes you to paradise. Like, if you look at yourself, say I look at myself and I go, right, I want to put on X amount of muscle, or I want to look at this, like, in terms of a physical goal. Like, if you go to the gym and you're not sore the next day and you're not in pain whilst you're doing those reps, you're doing something wrong. Like, I know people that go, oh yeah, I go to the gym, I don't find it that hard. I'm like, well, have you put every weight on the bar? Like, are you really pushing yourself to that top limit? And the thing is, all of that is done by choice. Like, you choose to go, actually, these 10 reps that I'm doing, I could probably put another 5 kilo on either side. That's a choice. Like, do you want to do the harder work to get the better end result? Because, by the way, this is something I always say to people, being average is fine, as long as you can live with yourself being average.
Yeah.
I certainly can't. Like, I cannot get up every day, wash my face in the sink, look in the mirror and go, I'm average.
But see, the thing is there, because I can understand this completely. So coming from the upbringing that's very similar to yourself and not having, my big motivation was money, because I knew that with money could change my circumstances.
100%.
And then when you start to come into money, then hey, it triggers into the material things, the nicer car, the bigger house, the holidays.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
So you start getting attracted to spending money for the material things. And then it comes a certain transition where there's a bigger picture and everything else. And I found myself in my late 20s being incredibly complacent, you know, and just settling. And what I found and realised is that I'd achieved at that point all the goals that I wanted. The cars, the houses, the lifestyle, the dream woman, you name it. And it wasn't until a moment where I realised, where I started to let myself go physically, like I was not in great shape. And it's like an aha moment. It's like, fuck. Like, and then you start to realise, well, why have I become complacent? I'm not talking about complacent for a week or two, I'm talking about complacent for a couple of years. And then you start seeing that small decline in looking after yourself and you know, your drive and your motivation. And I'm like, shit, you need bigger goals. You need to be thinking about why you do it. That's why most people can get in good shape when they've got a holiday coming up, because there's motivation and a drive for the holiday.
People are so bad for that. And like what you're saying there, Jess hates me for this, right? Because I try so consistently to not fall into that category. So she can ask me, just like, you're the same as me, I don't have any issues answering money-based questions, right? Because the way me and you grew up, like if you were to ask someone, oh, they're talking about a new job, if you were to ask just out of childhood curiosity, how much do you make? Bang, you're getting slapped in the back of the head. It's just a no, you just can't ask those questions. And it's no surprise that we know nothing about money coming out of communities like that when we're not even allowed to speak about it. It's impossible, right? But Jess will say to me, oh, how was business this month? Or how was this week? Or she'll ask me stuff, and obviously I'm a little bit older and Jess is very much far beyond me in terms of an academic, but she, being around me, being around you and speaking to Alexa, she's like, oh, I wonder if there's a business thing. Do you get what I mean? It piques her interest. So she'll ask me business-based questions. And for example, I can say to her, oh yeah, you know, done 110 grand this month, 120 grand, like whatever we've done that month. Maybe we've sold a flip that month and sold a couple of deals as well. And she'll be like, oh my God, like that's insane. And I'll be like, yeah, it's good. And she'll be like, no, that's insane. I'll be like, yeah, but I'm not going to get stuck. I'm going to go, right, nice one, let's get to 1 million now. Like, I want to give myself a small, well done, and then keep moving on. And I know that when it gets to 1 million a month, it's going to become, right, how do we get to 10? How do we get to 100? Now, maybe within that business, you reach an economy of scale, and it's about looking at, okay, what other ventures can I bring in to get myself into being a centimillion, like, turnover individual, right? But that's what so many people do. They go, oh, I've done that. The amount of people I know stuck on 10 grand a month. By the way, getting to 10 grand a month is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Everything after that is easier. Like, people think I'm ridiculous when I say this. I came into the property game with no savings, right? A good backing from my friends at American Express, right? I had a net worth that was nothing, right? I thankfully had no real serious personal debt. I had a Debenhams credit card at the time, which I still have to this day, that I think was like maybe 300 quid of debt on it. But I didn't have a huge amount of debt. There was nothing really there. But if you even have £1,000, right, or £100 or whatever, right, because everyone, whether you like it or not, everyone can find £1,000 within 24 hours. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you really need £1,000 for something, you'll find that. So if you start off with £1,000 and your goal is to do what I've done and make over £100,000 within your first year in business, that's a 100x. You've taken £1,000, whether that's to pay for your first website, whether that's for a ticket to go to an event, whatever it is you use that for. If you get to 100k in 12 months, that's a 100x. But what's 100k to a mil? It's a 10x.
Yeah.
So if you can 100x £1,000 into 100 grand, and then you go, oh, I make 10 grand a month now, I'm sound. Like, I said this to Jess the other day, and she was furious at me. I went, I don't know how people can just live on 10 grand a month. I don't get it. And I remember having a conversation similar to this with you years ago, right? And I always feel like it's amazing for me, because I feel like I'm the greyhound and you're like the wee thing they chase. You know what I mean? Because I'm always like, right, I need to keep chasing Paul, right? Exactly, the grey hair. I need to keep chasing Paul, right? And I remember you saying years ago something like, oh, like something to do with personal expenses and how, like, if you didn't make blah blah blah, you couldn't even begin to live life. And it was something like, you maybe said 100 grand, like I mean, you need 100 grand to just live a basic life. And I was thinking, this guy's off his rocker with 100 grand. I was like, if I had 100 grand, I'd retire. You know that way, right? It's just because I'm not exposed to that yet. I've not acclimatised to what success is, and maybe I still haven't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got a Lamborghini, you've got a Bentley, I've got my McLaren, my XTM comp, I've got nice stuff. You've got a far nicer house than me, to be fair, but I mean, neither of us are saying, oh, let's make a phone call and get the jet fueled. Do you get what I'm saying? So maybe I don't understand success still, because I've not experienced that stuff fully yet. You never know. You've done your business classes, your first classes, but
yeah, so everything you're saying there ties into the whole big thing that I always talk about. The only way for someone to grow is to put themselves in situations that forces them to grow as well, because the challenge is for many people is you're either moving towards or moving away from. Moving towards is like doing something because you want to achieve a certain goal, and for most people, like, it's all about moving away from the reality of their life. That's the majority. Very few people are driven towards certain things. And most people at the beginning of their journey, it's to move away from a situation of not having, you know, enough's enough. Like for me, I was in 40 grand of debt by the age of like 21, 22 because of store cars, loans, overdrafts, because I took a lot of that out, used that money in things that I should never have done, like a car, insurance, misspending it in clothes, going on holidays. You know, doing the usual shit.
Bad. It's so bad.
And that's there is just bad money habits. And thankfully, a portion of it I invest in my education, which was the best investment I ever made. Because just like you said there, investing £1,000 in your education to get 100x, if that's going to give you a skill set to go and turn your business into a six-figure business, then you're making that investment. And I think for most people, when we're talking about finding like something that can motivate you and drive you to take action and do something, because most people are just complacent in life and settling. It's like putting yourself with what I call your back against the wall. And for me, my back against the wall was taking out those loans and overdrafts, and what I thought myself was making a gamble in my education, because I invested over like almost $9,000 to go into my education. Like, I'm sitting there doubting myself going, why the fuck am I spending this amount of money?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the outcome's going to be here. They're telling me that if I invest my education, that I could change my complete life. I've put my whole faith in that to be true. You know?
Yeah.
Now, I also always knew, because it goes back to the whole martial arts, that what you put in, you get back out. So I knew that I wasn't like, I'm giving them money and they need to do it for me, because I've never had that mindset. I always know that I have to do the work.
Of course.
So for me, I had no other option, because I had to pay those credit cards back, I had to pay those loans back. So every bit of information that I was getting at events, I'm like, I am taking action. I have to stretch my comfort zone. I have to do things that's going to be incredibly uncomfortable, that's going to get me rejection. I'm going to come up against obstacles. Like, I'm going to be so uncomfortable, but I have to do it, because there's no other way. No one else is going to pay my debt.
Of course not.
No one else is going to put food on my table. No one else is going to give me the things that I want. So sometimes you have to put yourself in situations that it forces you to get away from where you're at to get to the things that you truly want. Then the whole idea, when I became complacent, I realised I achieved so much, and then realised, okay, now I can move towards bigger goals, because I've built a life that's truly like unbelievable, that I never thought would be possible. But it really is the early days of having those moments like, what the fuck have I done? Am I making those big commitments? Because invest in yourself, especially if you've never done it before. You don't know the value of it. It seems crazy. And you've got everybody around you saying, don't do it, don't be so stupid, keep that money.
Easiest way to find out who your like actual circle is, by the way, is to go and do some type of personal development or education that isn't normal education, right? And do you know what I always say to people? I knew a boy, right, believe it or not, who had such bad FOMO, like fear of missing out. His mates were all going on this mad holiday to Ibiza. His mates all had decent money, right? Offshore workers, construction entrepreneurs, not mega money, but all probably 100 grand plus a year, right? And they're wearing the Rolexes and the this and that. And this boy I knew was just like, I mean, ticked up to his eyeballs, just trying to keep up with these guys, Klarna to buy the clothes and all that. But the one thing he had was a flat with like 30 grand equity in it. And, you know, he sold that house to go on holiday to Ibiza with him. Moved back in with his mum. Sold the house so that he'd have 30 grand. He was borrowing his mates' watches and all that to wear them on the holiday. But he went on this mad holiday to Ibiza. And everyone else comes back and, like, I mean, you've heard it from me when we talk about holidays. Like, for example, me and Jess were just away in Vegas there. Like, basically cage side at the UFC. We went, I bought myself some new trainers, she got a handbag, whatever. And you go, geez, oh. But you come back and then you don't look at your bank balance and go, you look at it and you go, oh, okay, like, I've still got a few $100 grand there, that's my stuff, like, that's outside your business, you know. You look at that and you're like, right, it's fine, because you've put the work in to get to that point. There's people doing stuff like that. And when I speak to people who are in mountains of debt, right, I always just use a very simple sentiment. I'm like, mate, you're fucked anyway, right? You're fucked anyway. You're in a position now where you either need to choose to survive or thrive. That's your only two options, right? Because this is what people say to me. I was talking to someone that I went to school with, right? I'm talking like 2 weeks ago. And he's like, mate, I'm in like 35 grand of debt. He's in a graduate job. And people think they go to uni and they step out and get good money. Give me peace, right? It does not happen. I know you've been to uni, right? But I look at uni, unless you're doing something like brain surgery, right? If someone starts offering a brain surgery in the Yes Academy, maybe just cancel your membership, right? But unless you're doing something like that, uni is a fucking scam, mate. If you think that that's a prerequisite for success, congratulations, you've fallen for the marketing material that UCAS gave you and your careers advisor in school, right?
But the problem is with that, with schooling system, and then again sitting down with the career advisor. My career advisor says you should go and get a trade, go and become a joiner or a plumber or something like that.
I'm a qualified spark.
I know, and it's crazy how they're telling you what to go and do. And if you go to university, and look, I'm not against it. I've been to uni as well. I think it's good for the social aspect and everything else. But what's nuts is that there's a stat of over 85% of people who have got a degree in whatever it is end up going doing something that's not even relating to the degree that they've got. So spent the best part of 4 years. And what's nuts is what you're
much have they
actually
spent
doing.
of that
So
as
they're in student loans, bursaries, all sorts
all
of
they've got
debt.
is a bit of paper and probably chlamydia. Like, that's all they've got to show for the 4 years at uni.
But the crazy thing is what then happens is their value's placed on the qualification they've got, what the market's paying. So let's say they get a great degree and they're able to get a 30 grand a year, which I don't think many people who come out of uni even get, but let's imagine they did. Like, the only way for them, they can't just turn around and say, well, can I double my salary? Can you give me 60 grand now? Two things have happened. One, the market doesn't pay that. And two, they're restricting their own wealth thermostat and their capacity to 30k because they've been told that that's their value and their worth based on the qualification they've got, their experience and what the market's paying.
How terrible is that someone goes, what is that you've got in that bit of paper, Paul? Okay, there's your value, mate. Like, it's that nuts. Is insane to me. Like, that's like degrading, mate, I think. And when I speak to people who are so scared, because let's say they're in student debt or they're in this and that, and they go, because you know my story, I quit my job on a whim to go full-time in property because I was like, I hate my job, it's ruining my relationship with my dad. What is the worst thing that happens here? I end up back on the tools, I end up where I already am today, right? So these people go, but Richard, I'm in 30 grand of debt. Like, if I quit my job, I can't make my interest payments every month. I'm like, okay, why are you in the fucking debt anyway? Because you don't get paid enough. You've got a desire for other things from life. You've took that credit card out to go on the holiday. You've took that credit card out to get the Louis Vuitton trainers. You've done all that stuff, right? That's why you've done it. You would not have done that had you created an income for yourself, either through employment or otherwise, that was going to sustain the lifestyle that you wanted. So you saying that's like someone who's addicted to heroin, right? Turn around going, I'm a heroin addict. I don't want to take heroin anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take more heroin. Unless your goal is to die, then you're not going to get to a point where you're not taking heroin anymore. And people are like wanting to stay in the job that's caused them to be in the debt because they don't make enough money to pay off the debt that they took because the job was shite. Like, I try and look at people and people think I'm crazy. Like, I'm like, mate, your life is fucked anyway. You're a write-off if you don't do something about it. And some people choose to go, oh, well, I don't know, I'm just going to pay off my interest, and then next thing you know, they're bankrupt and blah, blah, blah. But then some people choose to go out and take action. Okay, what can I do? Maybe the university course that I went done failed me. I didn't try hard enough. I thought there was going to be jobs in this field because that's what I got told. How many civil engineers do you know, mate? It was like the thing. Does that make sense? So many of my mates became civil engineers, but now they're retraining as QSs. I know a boy who's got a degree as a civil engineer who's went back and is doing an adult apprenticeship as a joiner.
Wow.
Which some people would go, that's a downgrade. No, it's not. I know joiners who are making decent money now, not the money that you'd make as someone running your own business as an entrepreneur, but like, it's crazy to me how stuck people are in this system. It's mad.
And when you're in that system, that's the thing. It's like you don't know anything else. You can't see the wood for the trees. It's because you're getting conditioned. I know you're being conditioned at this on a daily basis, which is nuts. And that's why for me, and like with what I've got with my other company, More Than Academic, which goes into schools to help educate and support others, and our financial education products that we're rolling out to help the youth, because it's so important on two fronts. It's the whole, and it ties into the Yes Academy, which I'd love to talk about in a moment as well, is that there's this idea of being an entrepreneur, and there's this idea of also being an intrapreneur. Both are the same in the sense that it's both about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about not just settling. You can still work in an organisation and excel within there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, because again, wouldn't it make sense if you're going to go and get a job and you go down a career path that you excel at it, that you do the best at it, that you move up the ladder at a rapid pace?
That's the thing I don't get, because so many people have the attitude of, I'm just going to do the bare minimum. Yeah. But they expect more from life, even as someone who is working. It makes no sense.
Yeah, because I've got many people that work within my organisation who are just here to work, and that's it. And you're going to find those people, and that's what they want. That's cool. That's fine. We're talking to those who want to think differently. I've also got people within the organisation that I call an entrepreneur, because sometimes being an entrepreneur is taking on all the risk, all the overheads, all the challenges, all the market conditions changing, you name it. Being an entrepreneur is incredibly difficult, But those that can embrace that and go through that entrepreneur roller coaster, the upside is unbelievable. But it's great being an entrepreneur as well, because being an entrepreneur, you can build within the safety net of an entrepreneur and still be able to bring a lot of value to the business, benefit from it, get those promotions, get extra bonuses, get extra income, get extra opportunity, and even have a business built within the business with an entrepreneur.
That's
which
exactly
a lot of
what
people
I was
miss
gonna
that.
say. It's exactly what I was going to say, because loads of people don't understand that, like, see, when you're in an industry or businesses like ours, I actually want to see people that I work with or who work alongside me, I want to see them have their own ideas, right? But there's also a selfish side to that, because see, when someone comes in, say for example, I came to you and I said, Paul, I've got this idea, right? And you thought, that's a good idea. You're going to want a bit of that idea, right? So when you're creating that kind of entrepreneurial mentality within your business, because so many people say to me, Richard, when you talk about entrepreneurship and blah, 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 why do people still want to work there? Surely they hear that stuff and they want to go. I'm like, no, what they do is they actually create their own ideas that I can then help support. Like, working with young people, especially the people in the Young Entrepreneurs Society Academy, like the ideas that come from that and the opportunities that I see, that I can then get involved in as well and work together with them. It's like everybody wins when you create an entrepreneurial mentality within a business or within a community. Even as someone who's employed, people think that you spread entrepreneurship and people just start going, oh well, I'm going to hand in my notice then and go away. No, they start creating opportunities that with an entrepreneurial leader like you or like myself, they're going to see that and boost that person and help them build from inside.
The new currency, especially with social media, is collaboration.
100%.
Who you can collaborate with is the fast track to get ahead. If you've got a skill set, an idea, you can partner with someone else that's able to bring their skill set to it. Like, two minds working together can explode things at a rapid pace. It's unbelievable.
Do you know one of the best examples of that is, Grant Dawson, that runs Cardone Ventures?
Yeah, I
right?
do.
So he was going to start that as Dawson Ventures, right? They projected that he would net himself, because he's already a super experienced entrepreneur, he wasn't just coming out and doing this first ever thing, right? He thought he was going to net himself 8 million within the first 2 years, right? He went and licensed the 10x Cardone name, became business partners with Grant, and basically said to him, I just want to use your name and be able to pick up the phone sometimes, and I'll give you 50%. In the first 2 years, Dawson himself, using it as Cardone Ventures, made 25 million.
It's nuts,
just through that collaboration. And people would go at the start, how many people say, because I have people saying it to me, oh, like, why would you give 50% of someone to something else? I'm like, do you not understand the value of being with someone, the value of acceleration through someone who's already carved that path?
I've got the exact example as well. I had someone who, she was a superstar. She's doing incredibly well right now, right? As you would be as well, like we spoke about that earlier on, that if you weren't working with me and got the education and property, you'd still be successful, right? But you said the case, of course, it's helped you fast track. And I've got that in my own experience too. So there's a business opportunity that they really wanted to work with us, and it was the same story. It says, okay, I'll take 50% of the business, this is what I'm going to bring to the table, and we can accelerate things. And then her response was, I can't do 50%. Like, I was thinking about 10 or so. I was like, okay, so what's your finance goals or your income goals over the next year for the business? Oh, I want to take the business from what she was doing about 40, 50 grand. She wants to take it to 150 to 200k. That was her goal. The goal was to get to $250,000 within 3 years as an income per annum.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, I'm looking to get into partnership with you. I've got a bigger picture of what we can do. I've got the network there. Here's the resources. In the next 12 months, we'll do 7 figures. I don't get involved in business unless it's going to turn 7 figures. And that's why I'm looking for 50%. And she get caught up in that and you wouldn't do it. So
people overvalue everything.
Of course, but from my point of view, what would you rather? Would you rather have 50% of a 7-figure business or 50% of 100 or 150 grand? Big difference.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand when it comes to collaboration. You know, it's like, what value is getting placed to it? It's like, why would someone go to Dragon's Den? And a lot of them that go there don't even need the money. Technically, the money
is the exposure
is
and
to really just to get that exposure to the dragons. Because if you've got a Peter Jones, a Duncan Barrettine, any of those as your business partner, it's like the same when it comes to The Apprentice. What you're getting a couple $100,000 seed capital. Forget that. The seed capital's insignificant.
That's why I didn't go on.
You've got Lord Sugar to turn around and say, he is my business partner. Do you think he's doing any work? Not a single thing.
No.
His team will oversee things, and he's expecting you to go out there and graft. But you can boast on the rooftops and say, or boast on the rooftops saying, look, Lord Sugar's my business partner. Peter Jones is my business partner.
Man.
It just does so much for you. It's unbelievable, and it's so underestimated.
Because I know when you go into shops, like designer clothes shop, you go, I know Richard Dixon, and they give you good service and that.
And maybe if I wanted my car wrapped, I'm definitely...
Definitely, mate. I've wrapped enough cars, man. I've probably drew a free one now.
So, to bring this to a close, tell us a bit more about what we're doing together with the whole Young Entrepreneur Society, the Yes Academy, the bigger picture. Ties into a lot of stuff we're talking about.
Excited about
because
this
it's about building a community of people who are wanting to be driven, wanting to be motivated, want more from life.
100%.
And where better to start with the whole people who are a young entrepreneur. And young entrepreneur, like, I'm only 36 and I still feel like a young entrepreneur,
Mate, I wind you up about your age, right? But you're not an old guy. And see, when you think about it, the average age of a supercar owner? You know the average age of a supercar owner? The average, from the youngest side of the spectrum to the oldest, is 44 to 65.
Wow.
With the highest average individual car in that class, even though it's not a supercar, but you understand what I mean in terms of price, the average age of a Rolls Royce owner is 59.
Wow.
And I know quite a few young Rolls Royce owners, and you see like even rappers and footballers and that driving them and stuff like that, right? See, when you think about, I don't think there's anything wrong with tying into materialistic achievements, right? I'm proud of the fact that I have my McFadden and all that stuff, because growing up that's what I wanted. So when you think about it, just with stuff like that, I'm very young, but you're still very young in terms of the most expensive postcode in Scotland. Like, stuff like that isn't really achieved by people who are in their 30s. I bet you're the youngest person in that estate that owns a house.
Yeah.
For sure, 100% you have to be, right? So, in terms of the Yes Academy, when I first thought about the Young Entrepreneur Society in general, it was because I felt I'd been failed by the educational system, right? Not that I look back now and say I wish it was done differently so that I went to uni or something. There was really nothing that probably could have encouraged me, even if I had went to uni, to stay in uni, because in my head I would have always wanted more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I always wanted that next level. But when I sat back, even as entrepreneurs, we are so underrepresented in every aspect of life. Tell me a political party that would represent all entrepreneurs, young and old. There's not one there. Tell me a course that you can go and study. Entrepreneurship, you get the entrepreneurship awards at universities and all that for people in business studies. I mean, I truly thought that business studies in school was teaching you how to start your own business. That's how, and I wasn't stupid, you know what I mean? I wasn't the smartest person there, but I wasn't stupid, and I thought that's what it taught. The same way, if you pick French, what do they teach you? They teach you French. You pick maths, they teach you maths. You pick business, they do not teach you business. Yeah. I got chucked out of my business class for asking the teacher a truly honest question. I said, what businesses have you run? And she chucked me out of the class. Miss Patterson, I remember it. She came out and she goes back to me, she said, you know that I graduated from Glasgow University with a 1-1, or I don't even know what degrees mean, right? In business and marketing and blah, and I won't have you undermine me. And I was like, the whole time I was just focused on the fact that her big achievement was the uni degree.
Yeah. And
that's when I realised, oh my God, you've never even been in a business. You graduated from university and became a teacher. And she wasn't young, by the way, so she's been doing that. She's been teaching forever. She's never even been on the tools. Do you get what I mean? Like, that was insane to me. So I thought to myself, like, I need to create a culture, a movement, a community that shows young people the path to success, that doesn't fill them with this rubbish that they need to go and have some form of higher education. There's so many young people that I know that have quit on themselves because they've either not got into uni or they've not succeeded at a sport. How many young people do you know that people talk about from when you were younger? He could have been the next this football player.
He could have made it. He should have been playing for Celtic or Rangers or whatever. Yeah.
You hear them all the time, and people think that's their one shot. I had one chance to make it. I blew my shot at being a footballer because I liked going out for a drink too much, or I blew my shot at university because I didn't try that hard. So now I am confined to a life of misery forever. But it's not true. That's the dream that we were all sold. Like, you played football, right? If you had tried harder, you could be sitting here, I could be interviewing you about a football player, right?
Yeah.
But you chose not to go, oh, I didn't succeed at football, so I'm going to quit on life now. The same way I decided I don't want to fight MMA anymore, I'm not going to get to the UFC, okay, I'm just going to quit. I didn't do that. The same way you, I guess, went to university, right, in a bit of a roundabout way. It wasn't a traditional, I was really good at school and went to uni. Yeah. You went in a very non-traditional way, right? I didn't go, oh, I didn't get to uni, so I'm never going to be successful. Like, I had to find an alternative path. Like, that's what I needed to do. And so many young people are sat there now. I know there'll be people watching me and watching you online thinking, oh, I see these guys doing that, but I just don't think I can do it. So I thought to myself, there needs to be a way that we can create something that opens the doors, that carves the path for these young people to get out of the situations and the lives that they're in. Because for me, like you said, it wasn't always about, oh, I wanted a McFadden. I just wanted a better life, mate. That's what I just wanted, a better life. And that snowballs and grows and becomes something bigger. And for me, I was like, well, if someone else isn't going to make it, if the education system isn't going to make it, if the schools aren't going to make it, the politicians aren't going to pass, I don't even know what it would be called, some type of new law, whatever, to represent entrepreneurs, okay, I'll carry it on my back, I'll do it myself. That's what I had to do, man.
It's amazing because what we've been able to achieve already with the initial launch of it, which was just the pre-launch to what we're going to be building with it. And what we decided to do is do something very different.
Yep.
We wanted to put value. I'm talking about putting programs on there that's real, tangible, that's got exercises and go and apply, stuff that they can spend hours on, that you could spend years trying to figure this stuff out yourself, and then have practical steps to go out and take action and get immediate results. Because being in business, being entrepreneurial, trying to change yourself and grow as a person, you need some action points. You need that roadmap to follow so you can stay on that path. But more importantly, have like-minded people around you, changing your social networks, changing your environment, getting around other winners. All of that there is a recipe for success. Getting the right knowledge, the step-by-step process to follow, actionable steps, and then the network. I think what we're building is unbelievable, and you've really led that charge. It's amazing.
I think in terms of personal development, personal financial development, like just finding other income streams or even bettering the businesses you've already created or the ventures you've considered, I would bet my life on it that not even a year, I'm talking 6 months in the Yes Academy is more valuable than a 4-year degree in business.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I've been through this process, and I guess with you as my mentor as well, right? And I've been through this process of coming from here to, and I mean, I'm nowhere near finished yet, right? So I can't even go from here to here. I'm like here to here in my eyes, but that's already massive. Does that make sense? And I've been through the ups and downs, the entrepreneurial roller coaster that we call it, right? And having that real life experience of going out there. I mean, loads of people forget, like, because we're in this game of creating these paths for people to follow, we've been out there and earned our stripes, especially, I mean, Paul's like just about to turn 60, so you've been in this game a long time.
Oh, you don't mean my 4th stripe?
No, yeah, sorry, I'm talking about your business stripes, right? No, you're a black belt now in business, probably red belt. So, we've been through it. Like, we're coming from a place of experience and giving these young people a real world angle on how to go out and create a business, how to create an amazing life, how to create something that's exceptional, right? And the thing that always starts on, every young entrepreneur I talk to, I say, what's your income target for this year? They always say 100 grand. And the thing that I love is I done that within my first year. So if I could do that myself, I'm wanting to see my students accelerate that. Like, I mean, looking in, we've obviously got the Discord channel, we've got a WhatsApp for our founding members, and we are in there interacting with those people pretty much every single day. And when I see some of the wins that get shared in there, like, it's insane. People making, 60, 70, 80k off like one deal. They're going, and I'm not even talking about money wins. I've had people message me going, mate, I didn't even know where my life was going. Like I didn't even care that much about getting into business. I wanted to understand, how do I think like this guy so I can wake up in the morning and be happy with myself. Like, so many people's self-worth is tied to what they get paid and the achievements they have academically. And I'm trying to show you that, look, you can get paid more and not even care about that other bit. So if you're someone who's sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I want more from life financially, I want to feel better about myself, I want to be more confident, I want to think better, you're not going to find a resource on planet fucking Earth like the Yes Academy. You just can't find it. There's been so many hours, so many times that we've sat down and went, scrap everything, start again. Like, we need to do this differently, we need to add more value. There is nothing that's packed with as much value that you can actually go out and use in the real world to be a better person, a better entrepreneur, and add value to your own communities than the Yes Academy. You can't convince me otherwise.
So where do people register? Because our next enrolment is it's the
1st of November.
1st of November.
Yeah, so loads of people don't know this about the Yes Academy, is that we do it as phased intakes. It's not something you can just walk along and join and dilly-dally. I want this to be accessible to everyone, but I only want the people in the Yes Academy to be the people that are actually driven to go and make money. If someone wants to add an extra £1,000 a month, I mean, I'm wanting people that are wanting to add an extra 10, 15, 20 as a base level, you know. So we don't keep this open all year round. We do this as phased intakes, and like you said, 1st November's our next intake. You're going to want to head on to www.youngentrepreneursociety.co.uk and you'll find our enrolment page there. You register your details, we get in touch with you, letting you know when it opens back up. And as much as it's phased intake, we also have limited spots as well. We never take more than 150 or so people in at each intake, because the quality of the education that the people in our programs get is far more important to us than the quantity of people. It's all well and good being able to say, oh, I've got an online community with 100,000 people. I want to turn around and say, okay, how many of them have made 100k? How many millionaires have you made? Like, you can't keep a track on that stuff when all you care about is filling a big room. I want quality in there. So make sure that if you do get an email sent out to you offering your spot in the Yes Academy, you act fast, because it's not going to be there for long, as we've seen before in the previous initial intake.
Love it. Building the movement. Outstanding.
That's what it is. We're going to take over the world, mate. That's what we're going to do.
Good chat, my man.
Yes. That's it.